side. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We will start. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Sharina and next to me is Erica. So for today, we're going to look at how to develop effective reading skills. And hopefully by following our workshop today, you'll be able to manage your own academic reading. Okay. For today's presentation, there are 4 parts. 2 parts will be handled by me and another 2 parts will be handled by Erica. So I'll be looking at what are the challenges that you might face when you read academic texts, and we will offer possible solutions, how you can overcome them. Erica will be looking at guiding you step by step on how you could question what is the purpose, why am I reading this text, and she will also give you a practice on how to preview a text, and I will conclude this by looking at different strategies that you can use. So these are our profile. So Erica, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Erica Bailey. I work in the foundation program teaching English here at Dhofar University. And I've been here about 2.5 years, and I will be working at some of the reading strategies and information you need for this presentation. So back to you, Sharina.
Yeah, and I'm Sharina. I'm an assistant professor here at the English Language and Literature Department in CAS. So, yay. Hi, Dr. Samin. To be fair, this workshop is intended for our final year students, well, helping any kind of students at any stage of their studies, really. But what we hope is that by following our workshop today, you'll be able to explore the vast amount of reading required for academic and use that strategies and skills when you write your research paper. So that's the aim anyway. So I'm going to start with just give you a general overview, especially to students. So when in our everyday lives, we read all sort of text. So when we drive, we are looking at signboards, we're looking at traffic lights, and we're reading all the signals. We might be also using our phone to read text messages from our friends on WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook, all kind of text. So today's workshop is focusing on academic reading, particularly reading textbooks and journals required for your studies. And when we talk about academic reading, it requires a set of strategies that might be different than reading schedule for movie, for example. So what I need from all the participants today is, if you are using your mobile phone and your laptop, then you'll be able to do this. If you can take your mobile phone and then you scan the QR code. And if not, if you are looking at you using just your mobile phone, I'm going to share with you the link. How do we exit this? Yeah. Copy and I'm sharing the link with all of you. So if you are just on your phone watching and listening to us right now, you can click on the link. But if you're using the laptop to listen to us, so you can use your phone and scan the QR code, whichever is convenient to you. I have several questions that a survey that I would like you to take. So the first one, before that, I think you have to log into your university email address to access the forms. Please let me know if you are on it. Oh, no. Okay, how do I exit this? Okay. I want to see if anyone responding. There are people responding. We'll do it later. Thank you, Dr. Wajdi. Good,
Welcome.
Ahmad
Thank you.
Saleh. There are several questions. Okay. So the first question that I have for all of you is this: see if you are able to relate. You find that the courses at the university require you to do a lot of reading. How much, to what extent do you agree with this statement? So if you click on that link, or if you have scanned the QR code, so you could rate how true is this statement, relating that to your own personal experience. So that's the first one. The second statement is, you find the textbook and other reading resources for your courses consist a lot of difficult terms, like you don't understand what those terms are, and those terms are not explained by your course teacher, for example. It makes your reading really difficult. So if you find that statement relates to you a lot, maybe 5 stars. So the third statement is, because you need to read a lot, you find it so difficult to recognize which part of the text you need to concentrate on. Again, to what extent is the statement true to you? Next, because you have a large amount of reading to do, you find it so difficult to focus while you are reading. How is that relatable to you? And next, you find it difficult to remember the new material you have just read. So if you just read an article and trying to recall it, you find it really, really difficult. To what extent is that true? So those are the, how many statements? 6 statements that I have. Let me just check the responses that I get. Stop share.
Can I say something?
I've got 3 responses.
I think about myself. No one has enough time to read the whole article for each article. But for me, I'm reading the abstract and the findings, the results. If it's interested, I'll read all of it. Otherwise, I cannot read all of it. Only the abstract and the findings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good strategy. Yes, what you are basically doing, you are skimming and scanning for information. That's a good strategy. Yeah. I'm going to share my screen again. So I just wanted to see the responses that I'm getting from all of you before I conclude this. So this is what being said about the common challenges that students have when it comes to academic reading. And the first one is the amount of reading. So a lot of students, this is a survey done in Australia and New Zealand. And the most common feedback is that the biggest challenges that students face is the amount of reading required of them. Now, one way that we could suggest for you to overcome this is every course syllabus would have the required reading and the additional reading materials. I would say focus on the required reading a lot more rather than the additional reading materials. That will give you an idea. And reading the required reading material prior to class. Now that would help as well. And as mentioned by Dr. Wajdi, pick reading materials related to that particular class. So that's one way to overcome that. The second is academic terminology, the difficult terms that you find in your textbooks or your additional reading materials. One way to overcome this is to look at the glossary of terms. You can find this in textbook often, or to make cards, flashcards with these terms, especially if it's not something that is explained by your course teacher. The third is selective reading. A lot of students say we do not know how to select the right reading material. Now, the skills are skimming and scanning, and you will find this skimming and scanning in majority of English classes, be it in foundation or when you do any of the courses, Unity requirement courses at ELL. So the skimming and scanning these two skills will help you identify which parts that you feel will require you to read in depth. So the better you are at recognizing which part is important, that is going to help you in the amount of reading that you have to read at university. And this strategy will be taught to you by Ms. Erica later on. The fourth common challenge is how to maintain focus. Now, with a lot of reading that you have to do, how do you focus on the amount of information that you get from your reading? Now, one of the ways that we could recommend you to do this is have an understanding about yourself. When do you function best? Are you a morning person, afternoon person, or an evening, late night person? Now, when you know yourself, when you work best, have a routine. Decide which time of the day that you are most productive, that you are able to focus most on. Do you prefer morning, afternoon, or evening? Now, the common one is that once you've decided, oh, I'm a morning person, or I work best very late night when everyone is asleep. And the next question is, how much time do I need to spend? Now, typically in a 3-credit class, you would have to spend about 5 to 9 hours per week. So per week being Sunday to Thursdays, I would say leave your weekend to enjoy a little bit. So 5 to 9 hours per week, so probably about 1 to 2 hours a day. And once you've set up, this is the time of the day that I function the best, and I'm going to spend 2 hours on this particular subject, have a routine. Do it something that you could do every day and commit yourself to this, and that will help you in staying focused. The next one is how to retain all these ideas. Now, once you've identified, using the skimming and scanning skill, which you have learned in FP or in ELL courses. Now, once you've identified the part that is important to you, try a technique called spaced repetition. Now, if you study today, one particular topic, let's say you study about how to write an essay, an argumentative essay, and you learned the formatting, you learned about thesis statement and topic sentences, and you learned this, and you've studied that for 2 hours on Sunday. Now, I would suggest don't study it again on Monday, spaced it out a little bit, and study it again, for example, 2 days or the following week. Now, when you do spaced repetition, it helps your memory muscle to recall information. And there's one quote that I really like: the best way to remember is to forget. Anyway, that's another whole topic. Next one is critical reading. Now, this is another common challenges that students faced is, I'm reading so many information. Am I just going to accept everything that the authors say? Now, at the university, you have to link what you are reading to what you already know. You have to question, is this true? Is it acceptable in my context? Do you think the information is right? Is an accurate representation? Again, this would be discussed later on. Another advice, suggestion that I could say about maintaining focus and overcoming the amount of reading that you have to do is the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique simply means you assign yourself a task for 25 minutes and take a break 5 minutes. So get yourself a task, get your timer on, work on that task for 25 minutes with no distractions, and then give yourself a break for 5 minutes. And by doing so, you allow yourself to focus and retain the ideas within that 25 minutes. And this is a proven technique by, I don't remember who it was, but it's called Pomodoro technique. Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you, Sharina. What I'm going to focus on in this section is, why am I reading this? This is a common question for most of you. Some of you, the answer is because I have to, right? This is part of your class requirements. This is part of your academic research. Reading this is important. So we need to look at some of the material in talking about why, right? We need to figure out if we're reading this for a certain reason, we need to know the purpose, right? If we know the purpose, then we can maintain focus on what we're looking at and how we're focusing on the information we are reading. Remember, I'm sure this seems pretty obvious, but academic text is different from other text. Very clearly, academic text is considered a lot more challenging than regular text that you read every day. Like Sharina mentioned, if you're reading for a movie, if you're looking at certain things like WhatsApp messages and things like that, these are very simple forms of text reading. You're not going to have to spend a lot of brain power to figure out what you're reading. Academic text is very, very different. You're looking at a lot of complex, difficult terminology, and especially more challenging if you're reading it in not your target language. For example, if you're a native Arabic speaker, reading it in English will slow you down even more. So if you know what kind of material you're reading, then it can show you how much focus you need to put into that reading. Some readings are considered light reading. In fact, most of the things that you will read on a daily basis will be light reading. WhatsApp messages, Instagram stories, TikTok even. A lot of this stuff is light reading. And this is the majority of reading that you do. Unfortunately, once you go into school and academics, you're going to be doing a lot more serious reading. So that's where we're looking at here on what do we need to do when we have to tackle this kind of serious reading and what we can do as we go forward. Now, the fun part is we're going to have a little bit of a game. We're going to have a Kahoot game with 4 questions to determine what is a light reading task and what is a serious reading task. We have 4 questions, and I'll share the link here with you in the chat box so that you can connect to the Kahoot game. And then we will play together. Here is the link. I've put it in the chat box.
Game pin.
And the game pin. I didn't think it's connected. Here we go. And let's go into.
Use their names.
Don't forget, when you sign into this Kahoot game, you want to make sure that you use your name. We teach.
No. It's assigned. You can do it.
Okay.
now. Yeah.
So they're going to go ahead and do the game. Where is it connecting to the game?
No,
Sorry.
They have to answer. They have to answer, right?
Yeah, I know, but we have to see what answers they're doing. Right?
Until it finishes.
So here we have the Kahoot game. And you can play.
Ahmad Salim is in.
Hmm?
Ahmad Salim is in.
So we need to check the game, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So you've been challenged. So you want to start the game? Do you want to start the Kahoot game?
No, this is assigned, so they can do it on their own. We don't
Oh.
have to start it.
Oh, so okay, so we don't need to see who's the winner here.
Not yet. They
Okay.
can do it on their own. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. All right. So once you get the actual winners, make sure that you use your name, because then we can let people know when they have won the game, and we can congratulate you for that. Okay. So here we have, again, our light and serious reading tasks. So we'll give you a couple minutes to finish and see where you are at the end of this game. So everybody, good luck, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to finish.
Yeah. Let's say 3 minutes.
Yep, 3 minutes. We'll give you 3 minutes to finish the game.
I have answered all the questions. All is correct.
Okay, great. So we've changed the deadline to 2 o'clock. And so once we have the winners, we will announce them at 2 o'clock and let you all know who has won the Kahoot game.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks.
Okay, good luck, everybody. So now that we've looked at some of these light and serious reading tasks, we want to go into figuring out what type of reading depends on our purpose. Some light reading tasks can include finding a definition, looking for an answer, title of an author, or title or author of an article, looking for a date, getting an overview of the background of the topic. Serious reading tasks require more in-depth reading. We need to identify authors' arguments, maybe look at different perspectives on an issue, maybe looking for that evidence to support key ideas. Statistical trends require graph details and analysis. We also need to think about how a theory or a concept is put into play in our academic text. Again, it will depend on your purpose. If we're just looking at the surface for information, we could be things like looking for a definition. But when we need a more narrow focus, for example, looking at key ideas and evidence to support that, we need to look more in depth into the actual topic itself. Okay, so how do we preview a text? This is one example of a good reading strategy that when we look at academic text will kind of give us a lot more information about the text to decide whether this is something we need to read more in depth or if something we just need to skim and scan for the basic information. So let's get started on some of the things we need to look at here. Previewing the text, again, is a useful strategy. We're going to look at this academic text called Growth Mindset Tempers the Effects of Poverty on Academic Achievement by Susanna, I can't pronounce that last name, Clara, David, can't pronounce that last name either, and Carol S. Dweck. You can also access this text on your own to look at it more in your own time. Again, right away, you can look at the title and kind of guess that this is already an academic text. We have a lot of difficult terminology just in the title itself. So what do we do here? We're going to first read the title and rephrase it as a question to be answered by the text. So what does that mean? So if we're looking at this title, Growth Mindset Tempers the Effects of Poverty on Academic Achievement, we want to be able to rephrase this or move things around to make it more like a question. For example, what exactly is growth mindset? And how does growth mindset change the effect of poverty on academic achievement? Now, before you even get to this process, you might need to actually do a little Googling in terms of finding the definition for some of these words that you don't know. And that's perfectly okay. Sometimes, again, if you're not a native speaker of the language that you're reading in, it will take a little bit more effort. Growth mindset may be something you're familiar with, or it may be completely foreign and you've never even heard these words before. Totally acceptable, okay? We just have to figure out how to get better at reading text like this. Now, this is about going into your own past. For example, when we read text, we use information that we've already learned in basically our entire lives. What we've known in the past, what we've learned in school, what we've learned in university, what we've learned in class, what we've learned throughout our life. First question we can figure out is, have we even heard this growth mindset before? Do we even understand what the effects of poverty are on academic achievement? Now, some of you may be familiar with this kind of topic, others may not. So again, take it step by step. When you think of the word poverty, what are some images that come to your mind? What do you think of when you think of academic achievement? Again, we need to get our previous knowledge to help us build some ideas. it takes slow thinking, right? Sometimes we have to think about, what does it mean by academic achievement? In your mind, what does it make you think of? And this helps you link the information you already know with the new ideas in the reading. Again, this may be focused on something that you have to study in your own department or your own academic focus. Again, this is not the kind of thing that everybody will have to understand. But if you have background in engineering, mathematics, IT, a lot of this stuff should at least be slightly familiar. If not, then you need to go into more details. Another example of previewing the text that will help you is examining the subheadings. We're creating a map of what is going on in the academic text. In this example, we have 3 subheadings: materials and methods, results, and a discussion. So now we know how the academic text is structured. That means if we need to find, for example, statistical data, if we need to find methods, if we need to find out the overall results, we know where to go in the text itself instead of reading from beginning to end. Again, it could simplify how you look at an academic text. Pictures. Now, pictures are worth 1,000 words. Sometimes the best thing to do is look at pictures. Pictures can make the reading not necessarily more interesting, but sometimes it gives you something other than text, because usually when you see a lot of text, it seems overwhelming. Pictures and illustrations, graphs, tables kind of break up that information. It seems like it's a lot of text, especially when you have just words and words and words and words and words. Text and illustrations, graphs, tables, and things like that can give you a sense about what the reading is about. We're looking at things here. In this case, we have one graph looking at language, we have one graph looking at math, and we have a table that says % of students with mindset. So again, we're looking at these graphs, pictures, images to kind of see what the focus is in this text. And again, it does give your mind a rest from all of the words, because a lot of text can be overwhelming to some people. So when we look at these graphs, you can get some basic, simple information about the reading. One of the biggest strategies is taking the information and simplifying it. Read the first sentence of every paragraph. For those of you that go through the foundation program, the topic sentence is key to giving you the idea of what each paragraph is about, okay? This will give you information where you don't necessarily have to read the details if it's not related to the research that you're doing or the information you need to find. Skim the introduction and conclusion. Why? The introduction has a general overall introduction to what the essay or text is about. The conclusion will summarize and give necessary information at the end. Remember, this gives you a simplified way to go through your reading. Instead of doing all of it at once, you simplify, okay? Take these strategies into your academic reading. It is very important to make sure that you use these elements as you go through to make it easier for you when you start reading. Here's a summary of what I discussed in this process, okay? We need to figure out, is this something worth reading? If it is, do I need to read more? If I need to read more, how much more, and what do I need to focus on? Again, when Sharina was talking about retaining ideas, critical thinking, looking at the information, especially those vocabulary words, getting the information you need to complete the research project, to answer the questions, all of these steps can give you a simplified way of evaluating your text. Read the title and rephrase it. Think about what you already know. Previous knowledge can help you greatly. Examine the subheadings and create a map of what you need to do in what areas you need to focus. Take a break with all those words by looking at the illustrations, graphs, and tables. Again, some of that is a lot easier to analyze than the text itself. Skim and scan. Look at the introduction and conclusion. Topic sentences are really important in writing. Finally, that first sentence will give you that specific information about each paragraph. Again, if it's 30 pages of academic text, do you need to read 30 pages? Sometimes you do. Sometimes you can simplify it and go for exactly what you need, when you need it, and how to read it. That is exactly some of the key things that you need to go through and be better at academic reading. Your
All
turn,
right.
Sharina.
And let me go to the chat. For the next part, I would love if you could join me in answering some of these questions. So we will go through this. And okay, so I'll be looking at reading strategies. There's nothing new or innovative in the suggestions that I have for reading strategies. We might already have this. You might already use some of these strategies on your own without even realizing that this is my reading strategy. Erica have shared with you 2 strategies that you could use to help you with your academic reading. The first is to question yourself. What is the purpose? Why am I reading this? Is this a serious reading task or is it a light reading task? And you develop strategies according to why you are reading it. The next strategy, which Erica has shared with you, is the ways to preview a text. And that would help you a lot in deciding whether I'm going to focus this. Is this going to be something that you're going to read from the first to the very end, or is it something that you're just going to read at certain parts? So those are the 2 strategies that we've introduced to you. So my question is, so A, you could go to the form, or we could just do this together. The first one, tell me if it's true or false to your experience. Number 1, I tend not to read much beyond what is required to complete the assignment. What do you think? Does this ring true or not at all?
True.
Anyone besides Erica? Do you not read much beyond what is expected of your assignment?
Sometimes yes.
No, sometimes yes. Okay. The correct answer is false. Reading beyond what is required. Again, your course syllabus is a good reference. You will have the required reading material and the additional reading material. Your course instructor is the expert of the particular subject. He or she decides the additional reading material will help you understand the subject better. So reading beyond what is required for the assignment shows that you are extending your learning. Now let's go to the second one. I vary my strategies, meaning you have different strategies according to the task. Do you do that? Do you think it's true or do you think it's false? Yeah? That's correct. The answer is true. So different tasks, again, like how Erica mentioned, demonstrated to you about light reading and serious reading, require different set of strategies. If you only stick to one strategy, regardless whether it's light or serious reading, you might not be able to understand everything that you have read. Statement number 3, I make connections between what I'm reading and other areas of my understanding. Do you think this is true or false? True? Yeah. The correct answer is true. So making connections between what you are reading right now and what you already know will help you in that recall, in that retention of ideas. So if you are not doing this, if you are not making connection between what you're reading now with what you've already known, I suggest you consider this as part of your strategy bank. Statement number 4, when I read an article or book, I accept everything that the author says. True or false? False. Yeah. Right. So at the university, your teachers, even the management of the university want you to be critical thinkers, critical readers. You need to think about what you are reading and try to evaluate whether what you are reading relate to what you already understand about that particular topic. All right, statement number 5. I often find myself questioning what I read. Do you think this is true or false? True. 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 Correct. The answer is true. So when you question what you are reading, what you are doing, this is a strategy that I don't know if you are aware. So when you question, you're like, is that true? No, I don't think so. When you're doing that, this is a strategy where you are actively engaging in your reading. And what it does is that it helps you to maintain focus and memory recall. Right. Next. Statement number 6. Before I read, I established an idea of what I'm looking for. True, false? What do you think? Do you decide earlier on what I'm looking for when I read? True? Yeah. Yes, the correct answer is true. Well done. I guess all of you already know all the strategies. I don't know why I even bother. Right, that's true. So when you already have an idea, say for example, you are looking at the advantages of living in a big family. So that's what you're looking for. And when you do that, you are utilizing the skimming and scanning technique, and that will help you to maintain focus on your reading, and helps you to identify what's relevant and what's not. Yes, Mama, yes, sir. Helps you to find evidences. That's right. Okay, number 7. When I read, I stop from time to time to reflect. True or false? What do you think? Yes? False? False? True? True. Okay. I'm sorry. For those of you who said false, the correct answer is actually, there's no correct or wrong, but the best strategy is true. If you stop from time to time to reflect, it helps you to make connections to what you already know. This is something that we discussed earlier. And also, if you look into time management studies about time management, studies on discipline learning, studies on how to maintain and focus and memory building, all kind of research in that area, they will say that having a period of moving from one task to another. So when you're reading, you stop and think. What it does is that it helps you to retain that information better. So if you're not doing it, I suggest consider this as part of your future strategy. Okay, number 8. When I read, I examine the details carefully to see how they fit with what's being said. What do you think? True, false? Yeah. So this goes back to one of the things that we discussed earlier. Do not accept everything that the authors say. Question what is being read. So when you do that, you are looking at, somebody mentioned evidences just now, so when you do that, you are considering how the details is being said. So you question whether the argument makes sense to the point that was the author is making. Okay, number 9, I skim the text for key ideas before deciding whether to read in more detail. True? Yep. Again, this is something that you might have learned in foundation or in any of the university requirement courses with English language department. When you skim for ideas, it helps you to familiarize with the key ideas of what you are reading. This will activate your prior knowledge and helps you to make connections between what you are reading and what you already know. Again, if this is not something that you are doing, might want to consider this as your strategy bank. And statement number 10, I like texts which give definite facts and information which can be easily understood.
Yes.
Yes. Good. For those of you who said yes, false, true, depend on the topic. For the start, having books that give you definite facts and information would be helpful when you want to learn something new. But if you want to develop your understanding of the topic, then of course you will branch out to reading about theories and philosophies. But for a start, I suggest look for texts and books that can give you definite facts and information. Again, what we want here is to develop a reading strategy to help you maintain focus. Number 11, I read an article straight through from start to finish. No. Ahmad Salim, no. No. False. Yes. The answer is false. There is nothing wrong from reading an article from start to finish, but there is a danger when you do this, you will lose focus. So having pauses and think about what you've read will help you, especially when you want to focus on what you are reading. Statement number 12. I copy down all the key quotes and information. True or false? What do you think? True, highlight. Yeah. I'm a bit old school in terms of copy down, but yeah, highlighting is good. Yeah. Right. No, Ahmad Salim goes no. A good strategy is, yes, to copy down or highlight key quotes because you will find the information as a paraphrase or as a direct quote. And if you haven't noted the relevant information, it's going to be hard for you to reference to the text properly. And you can also use highlight as a technique on PDF. That's something possible. Number 13, I highlight the author's main argument. True. Yes, correct. A good strategy is true. By highlighting the author's main arguments, it would make it easy for you to find this information later. It's also make you conscious about identifying what the main arguments are. And if this is not something that you do, you might want to consider this as part of your reading strategy bank. Number 14, I think about whether the evidence supports what the author is trying to say. If this is true, which means you are already doing critical reading because you are not just accepting whatever the author is saying, right? So that's an example. If you're already doing this, you basically are a critical reader. And finally, number 15, I make notes in my own words after I've finished reading. Good. So when you make your own notes, say you're an Arabic speaker, you read an English text and you write on your own in Arabic, there's nothing wrong with that because what you are doing is you make that information your own. And if you're not doing that, might consider that as part of your strategy bank. So what we've discussed is actually, by just saying true or false, what we've discussed is 15 strategies that you could use for your academic reading. With that said, that's the end of our presentation. And we are so grateful that you are able to join us this Saturday afternoon to listen to our workshop on effective reading skills. The presentation is intended for students, but I'm happy to see some of the professors are with us today as well. So we are grateful. If you have any questions, we are here to answer any of your questions. We still have time before we announce the winner for Kahoot.
Yeah.
That was refreshing. We are refreshment.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe if some of you have some reading strategies that work best for you that you'd like to share with the group, you could do so as well.
Yeah.
You think about all of the things that you're reading, especially in academic reading, for you that are doing research, for you that are doing just basic class information. What are some of the key strategies that you use most frequently? For example, when I'm looking at information, I would say probably skimming is my most go-to reading strategy, because a lot of that, like we said, when we look at this example, I think I have a copy of this. When we look at something like this, right, when we're looking at some academic test, we're just looking at just words, just lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of words. So again, skimming is one of the easiest things to actually get really good at. As a strategy, it's the fastest one. Do I need to use this? Can I use this? So what are some of the strategies that you guys use to help really get to the meat of your text? skimming is the best. Thank you,
Muhammad
Mohammed.
Yas is skimming. Yeah.
Gives you a
And-
good start.
Yeah. What about the rest of you? Is there some strategies that you use that we haven't discussed that you would like to share that you think that it will be helpful to the other participants as well? So feel free to share. Skimming.
The easiest one to do, truly.
Yeah.
Skimming.
Yeah, just
What do you use, Sharina, as your best reading strategy?
Scan and skim. I scan first. I ask myself, do I want to read this?
Mhm.
And then if this is something I want to read, and then I will skim through. Yeah,
Okay.
I scan and skim.
Good.
Can I say something?
Of course, of course.
I focus on the last articles. I mean, in Google Scholar, I do my research there. So I check which is related to my topic that I write about it. So it's better for me to see the last papers, like 21 or 20, because this is I need from here to start and finish with them as well. So it's better to use Google Scholar and other technologies if there is.
Yeah, that's right, Dr. Wajdi. That is good. So by going to Google Scholar, it gives you the related articles as well. That's brilliant. Also, on ResearchGate, based on the people that we follow, and that helps as well. So there's, many other apps I'm sure that can help us in identifying texts that are relevant to our field of study. Yeah, for sure. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
So Mohammed mentioned summarizing the main ideas in a text. When you talk about summarizing a lot of the text, especially academic text, when you're doing research, you're going to have an abstract. An abstract is a great way to get a good summary of what exactly that research topic or research paper is focusing on. An abstract is super, super helpful. It does give you, instead of going through everything, right? It does give you that focus on what exactly this author or these authors are looking at. So an abstract is also one of the best ways to go through, especially if you're doing research, especially research papers, research through Google Scholar and ResearchGate. Those abstracts will also, again, most of them are between 50, 100 words. That is a good place to start if you're doing academic research in focusing on any kind of bringing it all together. So finding sources, things like that will help.
Yeah. And Muhammad Yasir, I would say that is such a good technique that you're doing, summarizing them in ideas. So what you are doing is you are making the information on your own, like off your own. So that's good. That's a good strategy. So Hail is saying something, it's a good way of improving. Oh, that's a long one.
I'm gonna catch up with it. Tarek, okay. Yeah, and you're right. When Sharina was mentioning all the 15 strategies, some of you will use them and some of you won't use them. That's okay. We're just going through it slowly. We're skimming your information right now. When we talk about reading strategies, everybody reads differently, right? I read differently from Sharina. Sharina reads differently from Dr. Wajdi. Everybody reads a little bit different. Some strategies don't work for everybody. Now, the ones that you use, the ones that make you more comfortable, will definitely make you a better reader. Also, remember, when we do research, some of us really enjoy reading. For some of us, reading is not our favorite thing to do. So reading strategies are the best way to overcome a little bit of that I don't like to read. Okay, especially I don't like reading in another language.
And academic text.
I mean, even as a native speaker of English, academic reading sometimes is in another language. This is a lot of text and information and terminology that even as a native speaker, an educated native speaker, will struggle with some of this stuff here too. So again, don't think that, oh, I hate reading, I don't want to do it. Unfortunately, university doesn't always give you that choice of whether you can choose to read or choose not to read. Most of it does require a lot of reading. Once you start reading, again, those strategies can help you master the I don't like reading part. Because again, if you love to read, whew, you just spend all day doing the things that you love to do. Not everybody does. And I think that if you like to look at informative text, if you like reading these kind of academic, more nonfiction kind of information, then that's going to be something that this suits you better. If you prefer stories or poetry or YouTube, right? Some of these things are going to be a struggle. So don't give up if you can't understand it. That's really the biggest thing here, is that people will see something that looks difficult and say, I don't understand this, and walk away. That text that you walk away from may be the text that makes your research, makes your paper, makes your understanding better.
Yeah.
So don't just dismiss it because you don't understand it.
Yeah.
Give it a chance. Use some of these strategies.
Yeah.
Think about, how can I become a better reader?
Yeah.
Even if reading is the last thing you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Okay. We all have to do it.
Yeah.
This is the fact of life. We're
Yeah.
readers, we're writers, we're speakers, and we're listeners.
Yeah.
All of it comes together.
Yeah.
So as a university student, as a university teacher, as part of this, we have to do a lot of this. So reading strategies can help you be stronger,
Yeah.
even if it's not your favorite
Yeah.
thing.
I'm going to add on to what Erica is saying, and my advice is for students especially. Textbook to understand the subject that you are doing, right? You don't have a choice, and what Erica said, you don't have a choice. Being a university student entails reading a lot, and for you to understand the subject well, that's why you have these textbooks, right? Now, one technique that I would say that you have to learn throughout your university studies is to assign the right amount of reading to the right amount of time. So you don't assign a 500 pages text to be read in 2 hours. No. So you need to be able to identify how much reading I'm going to do today, how much studying I'm going to do today, the amount of reading, and equate that to the amount of time that you're going to spend. Now, don't exhaust yourself, because if you assigned a 25 minutes task, something that you can do in half an hour, but you say, oh, I'm going to take 1 week to do this. Think about doing an assignment, something that you could do in 2 hours, but you said, I'm going to give myself 1 week to complete this. And what happens is that you procrastinate, you give the task automatically increased in complexity. And this is what it says, Parkinson law. So the technique as a student with the amount of reading that you have to do is to assign how many pages I'm going to read at what, and how long will it take me to read. So I can't tell you how long you should spend, how much reading you should do in 2 hours. That's for you to decide. But having that right amount of task with the right amount of time, that's going to help you to maintain focus. And consider Pomodoro technique. Like I said, 25 minutes of focusing on the task and then 5 minutes break. This is a research proven technique to help you to focus on what you read. Yeah. And for students, if you are doing a 3 credit course, you should spend about 2 hours studying, 1.8 to 2 hours a day to understand the subject better. Yeah. It's 4 minutes to 2. We're just doing a countdown, waiting to announce the winner for Kahoot. Anyone else would like to share anything or any questions that you have for us? Feel free to do so, and we are here to answer.
Check Kahoot, see where everybody's at.
It's 4 minutes and will not be appear. Dr. Wajdi, when you were a student, what are some strategies that you use, with the amount of reading that you have to do when you were a student? How did you manage to do all that?
In fact, when I was a student, I like reading too much. I can say I spent a lot of hours of reading.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I cannot go back till I will close the library and come back to my home. This is my experience in teaching. I like reading. I like putting notes and reading books and write articles as well. So I mean, it depends on the person himself, if he like reading or not. So I feel so happy when I read a new idea, a new book, develop myself. Again, many times I close the library and then I come back to home. And I wish they can stay more than 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in my country. But this is the regulation there.
Yeah. Good. There's another technique I think I mentioned briefly earlier, and it's called Pomodoro technique. Say you're doing math, science, chemistry, education, social sciences, you have different subjects, and you make notes, right? You make your flashcards. So one of the ways for you to help remember what you've studied, you make your own, this among the reading strategies that we've discussed. So you make notes, and then the Pomodoro technique goes, one way that you could do is, you have one box that says things that you're going to study today, like every day, things that you're going to study every week, or things that you're going to study every other week. So you have different boxes. So when you take your note and you're reading it, and then if this is something that you can recall, you just, okay, this is something that I'm going to look back next week, or this is something I'm going to look back in 2 days. So you can move that flashcard to when you're going to study on that again. And when you look at something that you assign 1 week later, and then you are looking at that and it's like, oh no, I don't remember anything of what I've studied before. And then you go back to something that you can study every day. So the Pomodoro technique is that spaced repetition. Yeah, I'm talking too much more than I should, but that's a study skill. But yeah, hopefully that will help. Okay, 1 minute before we can announce who is the Kahoot winner.
One more thing about the cards that you mentioned now.
Yeah.
It's better to use different colors about different, topics you will highlight it. Otherwise, you cannot remember everything. When you talk about chapter 1, for example, use the yellow card.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, something like this.
Yeah.
It will be helpful for you.
Yeah. Associating new knowledge with some sort of ways to recall, that's going to help it better. In fact, a research is saying that if you associate emotion to what new information that you read, you are able to recall it better. So yeah, I agree with you.
In 9 minutes.
Refresh it.
Okay, so we just looked at the Kahoot winners, and thank you all for participating. It looks like we have one winner. Who is Yes? Who wrote Yes as their nickname in this? Dr. Wajdi, you got second. TQ, Tarek, is that you for TQ? I'm just guessing. If you guys, yes, thank you, Tarek, for number 3. Dr. Wajdi, number 2. And who is Yes? If you could just give us your name.
Yeah, congratulations to Yes, Dr. Wajdi and TQ.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, that's all from us. Do you have any last word to say?
No, because I think most of you are out of the foundation program, so I can't yell at you for getting reading strategies at the beginning of the foundation program as you go into colleges. As you can see, some of these skills will definitely help you. And hopefully, as you go forward, especially into your own research, into your own information, you want to make sure that you are using the reading strategies that work best for you.
Yeah.
That's all. Enjoy your time, enjoy reading. Yeah. Hopefully, if you don't love it, you at least learn to like it a little bit. Yeah. So good luck to everybody. Yeah. And if you have any questions, obviously reading strategies can be found on the internet to help you in any way. Yeah. As always, that's one of the best ways. Research how to read. That's a
Yeah.
fun way to learn how to read.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And I'm just going to wrap up with this. Think about what has worked for you in the past and think about whether there are new tools that we've discussed today that you can add on to your reading strategy bank. So yeah, that's all from us. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic Saturday.
Masalama.
Massive, thank you.